Welcome back, everybody. Harry P. from the Driftless Homestead. Today is going to be our last video in the walnut series for 2021. I know it's 2022, but it takes a couple of weeks to let them dry, and one thing led to another, and here we are today, bringing you more good information. So, where we left off was collecting the walnuts and then husking the walnuts, and then we lost a piece of video footage where I took the walnuts to the car wash and I pressure washed them to clean them off. And I'll show you in just a second what we ended up with. Here is our cage that we put the walnuts in, and we took them to the car wash and washed them off. And the reason for almost did it backwards. The reason the cage is made with the smaller opening at the top is so that all of the walnuts can feed down to the bottom for when you're doing this operation. So just hold on a second here, we'll get you a better view. Okay, so here's kind of how the walnuts turned out with the pressure washing. You can see they turned out pretty clean. And like I said, none of that really matters. It's just how big a mess you make through the process, because you're concerned about what's inside the walnut, what's on outside the walnut. That's why the maggots that are eating the hulls away shouldn't scare you either, because they're not inside the nuts. If they were, you'd throw the nuts away. So here's that. So today what we're going to be using is the Grandpa's Goody Getter. I think I paid like $150 for this. This is a great tool for cracking the nuts. You know, some of the other nut crackers that you would have used from when you were a kid until you're an adult, you know, apply all the force at once, and they're hard to hold or contain all the parts of the walnut as it's exploding because you put so much pressure on it. So what I have here is, if the Grandpa's Goody Getter, it tends to, because there's a long stroke on the handle, it adds pressure gently, and then it ends up being a multiplied force, and it's really good for getting the job done. So the way this works is, doesn't fit, right? So the way this works is, because it doesn't fit, right, is you push the handle backwards and then the jaw opens more, and then you're supposed to hold on to the nut to keep it from exploding all over the place, but it won't. I mean, you can. Then pull the handle down, and because it's a slow, gradual force, you know, you really don't end up with too much flying out, and then that's all you do. Now the nut is cracked. So I'm going to do a handful of nuts here for you, and show you that we could do this a little bit rapidly as well. This is the kind of thing, you know, that families could do together. It'd be great family time, and you know, one person could be cracking while the other people are getting out the nut meat. You go along quite rapidly, end up with that good family conversation like we used to have at dinner tables before we had drive-ins or drive-through restaurants. So push it back, open it up. Go on. I don't know, you might be able to, I'll show you this the phone number, but you could obviously Google search this Grandpa's Goody Getter and find it on the internet. Kind of get yourself set up for getting black walnuts next year. So let me rearrange things here real quick, and so you can see everything happening. So what I'm going to have here is, these are the nuts that we just got done cracking, and you'll see on this one there's quite a big piece of nut meat on there. So all you do is kind of, oops, that'll hurt when I step on it with my socks, is just kind of pull the loose pieces apart first, even the loose nut meats, and start separating things out. there's a big industry for this, I believe somewhere in Missouri, and there's like one company that buys all the walnuts. All the farmers collect their own walnuts and bring them in, and they probably sell them by the bushel to the walnut company, and they've got some mysterious process that the green nuts go in on one end of the building and nut meats come out the other. Obviously, they've perfected the process over the years, and they're pretty successful, being that they're the only ones that solve the problem and can do it at a commercial scale. So I haven't seen, for some of you guys that are into clone saws, I haven't seen anybody try to crack their code and come up with a code black walnut, clone black walnut. So you just go through with the Grandpa Goody Getter. You get this nice little nippers here. So you locate the meat that you're after. Pick this up at Goodwill or something like that. So you get the nippers with the black walnut. You'll find a piece of meat like that one there that's trapped in there, and you know, you can pull it apart and it'll come out in many pieces. So you just kind of use the nippers and kind of cut your way into it, and boom, the meat falls out. So you kind of figure out where you need to put force or open up to get the meat out, the nut meat out. So then, as you pick up your walnuts, just gently tease the shells apart where the cracker cracked them, and get the nuts out. You know, you could have a little contest with your kids here to see who can get the biggest piece of nut meat out. Maybe give them a quarter or something. Keep the family engaged in family activities. That's a pretty big piece there for black walnut pieces. They're a little bit more difficult to get the meat out compared to English walnuts, but these are healthy for you. So are English walnuts too. But did you ever buy English walnuts? They're not cheap. And these, trust me, if you find a neighbor or driving down the road and you see a bunch of black walnuts in someone's yard or driveway, just ask. I'm sure that they would almost be laughing under their breath if you asked them if you could pick up their walnuts, because they're sick of it. I was driving down the road one day while working, and I seen that there was, at the end of the guy's driveway, he had a wagon or something there, and he had out bags of walnuts. He picked them up, but he knew that it was a shame to let all of this basically food go to waste. But he didn't want to go through the hassle himself, so he put out the bags of picked them up, put them at the end of his driveway, and put a sign on there, free black walnuts. I went to go there. I was a day late from picking it up. I don't know if the guy eventually moved them into the garbage or if someone came by and picked them up. But the reason I would have picked them up, not necessarily because I'm starving and I wanted to get that food, but because, you know, I could do what I'm doing with them, turn them into food, or take them to the off-grid property and just stomp them in the ground and have that many more walnuts planted and growing. Because, like I said before, it's probably the highest value timber that we grow in the United States is black walnut. I'm interested to have you guys challenge me on that in the comments. What do you know about the lumber industry? What would maybe you think is of higher value? You know, the walnut tree is a furniture grade wood. You can go back through your nut pieces here, your shells, I should say, and you'll find bigger pieces of nuts that fell out on your plate or whatever you're doing, using to sort things out. So you're going to go back and forth. You're going to pick up these little pieces in here, and then you're going to end up with little pieces of shells that you'll come back from the nut meat with. So there's one that's basically broke up from the Grandpa Goody Getter, and you just pull the loose pieces off. And I don't mean pull them off, you know, because you end up breaking a nut like I just did right there, but you kind of tease everything apart a little bit. And when I say tease them apart, it doesn't mean that you're saying that the nut has an ugly mother or something like that, because it's not going to work. You know, as you do this, you'll get better at it. You'll find out what chambers you need to break apart first, what chambers are that hold a nut, and you'll get pretty good at it. The Goody Getter, basically when you do the Goody Getter and it smashes down, you're supposed to do the 2 points up and down in the Goody Getter. And I'm sure that it's been tried a million times, and that's the best process. Okay. Here's the empty shells I ended up with. And on this plate are the nut meats I ended up with for a tasty treat. I am going to use those to snack on. So, okay, that wraps up on how to forage for black walnuts, from picking them up to hulling them to washing them off and drying them for a couple of weeks to actually harvesting the nut meat out of them. Thanks for showing up today. Next fall we'll probably do the same thing. Hopefully I'll have some guests that can participate in this, so stay tuned. We're doing more videos. Hit that like, subscribe, and share button, and have a great day.